Hello, how are you doing? I hope you're doing well today. And if you can hear a bell going off in the background, that's my cats. I'm sorry if it's distracting, they're playing and I don't want to interrupt them. If you're new here, hi, I'm Theron and I like to talk about my silly characters, also affectionately known as my children. For today's video, I'm doing something new again and talking about two of my kids at the same time. But it won't be like an extended version of OC Overview. I won't be getting into their canon lore the way I do in those videos. That's honestly way too much for a single video, though I'm planning to make overview videos about them in the future. Maybe on their birthdays? Probably. But that's not for a few months, so we'll see if I get impatient and end up making them earlier. This time, I'll be delving into a different kind of lore, their creation story. So, the history of Shane and Niko from inception to the present. Abridged though, don't worry, I won't be talking for 3 hours, just a little over 16 to 17 minutes if I pace this video correctly. Hopefully. We'll see. So, about Shane and Niko. As far as I'm able to recall, the first character to be created was Shane, and he started out his life as one Shane Kairos, with dark gray hair and pale-ass westerner skin, and she/her pronouns. Yes, I'm just gonna come out and say it, Shane is trans, FTM, and the sooner you get over that, the better. Back in my junior high days when I was all sorts of phobic and closeted and totally unaware of the lost GBDs or the LGBTQIA community, Shane was a sexist piece of work who hated girls and liked to cross-dress because boys' clothes are more comfortable and for no other underlying reason, no sir, no way. And I can clearly hear someone in the back saying, but Theron, wanting to cross-dress doesn't make you trans. And I'm here to tell you that, yeah, you're right, it doesn't. But I'm quite sorry to say that wanting to be a boy and being jealous of boys for being boys, and wanting to cut off your mammary glands in service of adopting a more masculine silhouette, does make you some sort of trans. Not always FTM, you can be masculine, non-binary, or genderqueer, or something else entirely, but the argument still stands. I'm not debating that with you. Shane is trans, and if that makes you mad, then click off. Or leave a comment for engagement, that works too. Wow, I got heated there for a moment. Anyway, with that being said, I'm sure the next thing you want to know is what kind of story Shane was made for. Was it an edgy post-apocalyptic young adult novel a la Hunger Games? Or was it a sweet coming-of-age story like Aristotle and Dante discover the secrets of the universe? Well, I do not regret to inform you that Shane was, in fact, made for a Shingeki no Kyojin fanfiction. For the uninitiated, Shingeki no Kyojin, also known as Attack on Titan in English-speaking circles, is a manga by Hajime Isayama that was adapted into an anime in April of 2013. I was way into the show when it came out. I had just finished Sword Art Online and the early seasons of Fairy Tail. Oh my god, my taste in anime was so damn funny anyway. So my friend was planning to make this fanfiction where a group of young criminals are made to live beyond the walls. She asked me to make a character for the group, and on the spot I came up with a little cross-dressing thief with a switchblade named Shane Kairos. As for Niko Griffin, well, to be honest, he wasn't originally my character. Let me set the scene for a moment. It's 2013, I'm 14 years old and on Omegle, but only on text chat because I'm camera shy. So I'm digging around looking for people to talk to when I match with a stranger who also likes Attack on Titan. We get past pleasantries saying our hellos and how do you do's when suddenly they spring the question, do you want to roleplay with me? Of course I say yes. I'm a quotative girly seasoned in the ancient art of playing creepypasta roleplay quizzes. I wasn't about to pass up an opportunity to get my creative writing muscles working. So I used my OC, the aforementioned 16-year-old Shane Kairos, and my RP partner introduces me to 17-year-old Niko Misaki. Let me start off this section by listing off the traits that Niko with a C, Misaki, and Niko with a K Griffin share. They're both Japanese, though Niko Griffin is like a third Japanese or fantasy Japanese if we're really going through canon Maruluna lore, where I think Niko Misaki is full Japanese. They're also both bisexual. Oh, and just a bit of a fun fact for you. I didn't know what the hell bisexual was prior to this Omegle chat, so congrats to me for finding that out. They also share a love for reading, though I can't quite say if Niko Misaki was much of a bookworm as Niko Griffin came to be. The reason why I basically photocopied Niko Misaki's visage and filled it in with different colors is because before I could ask for permission to use their character in further stories, my laptop succumbed to a bad internet connection and I was unfortunately disconnected from the chat. If the things that happened in that chat didn't happen, Shane would probably be in a relationship with another character. I've been made aware that another character my friend made was supposed to be his love interest before I excitedly told him about Niko Misaki. So, there's that. But Shane and Niko ended up kissing during that roleplay session, which meant that obviously they were meant to be together forever. It's the law. That's how things are, according to 14-year-old Shane. So I decided, right, okay, I'm going to make sure these two dorks end up together. Permission be damned. So I took Niko Misaki's skeleton and dressed it up to be Niko Ziva, spelled with a C at first, because it was basically the same character in a different set of clothes. I rooted around in my old memory box in search of my old niche art, and I think this is one of the oldest pieces I've made. And if you can read that atrocious writing in the lower corner, it says Nicotane, spelled Nicotane, which is the old shipping name that I used to use for the two of them. I call them niche now, which is not only cuter, but doubles as a sort of reflection of what the relationship is built on, a niche interest, so to say. I used to call them nicotine because, and I am citing this from memory, I was addicted to them the way smokers are addicted to nicotine. So, peak edgy teenager bullshit right there. As far as Shane and Niko being a couple, well, since Niko Ziva was created, they've always been canonically endgame. That was the whole point of making my own version of Niko, to have them end up together. I've never paired either of them with anyone else, at least not long term. Niko has had his share of situationships, let's say, and Shane also kind of had a thing with several other characters, but one of them evolved to become his best friend, and the other kind of just stuck around for one story draft and then never resurfaced again. Since then, Shane and Niko have cycled through several different stories. In my earliest digital piece of them, which I'm pretty sure is also the first piece of art I ever posted on my old Tumblr account, if I'm not mistaken, Niko has white hair, though he sports the same brown roots that would later become his canonical natural hair color. Shane also has brown hair here, which has since then been changed to black, and it's super long, which is kind of canon. He did used to have long hair back when he was in junior high, but technically once he hit 10th grade and turned 16, he decided to chop it all off and start fresh with a mask-looking pixie cut, as you do when you're a baby trans mask. This piece was made around the time when I wrote their first post-Attack on Titan fandom story involving the two of them. In this story, Shane and Niko were a pair of high schoolers who became subject to shady experiments at a fancy boarding school. This story is titled Siren's Creation, which I published on quotev.com a long time ago. I'll link the story in the description if you want to read something that was painfully of its time, 2016-ish, and written by a 16-year-old. Feel free to tell me what you think about it if you do end up reading it. Maybe I'll reread it too for shits and giggles. Maybe I'll even make a video about it, who knows. It's good content. As the stories around Shane and Niko change, so did their appearance and their names. Where Shane used to have fair skin like a Westerner, he then evolved to have brown skin because he's full-blooded Filipino, or fantasy Filipino for anyone picky about lore. And us Filipinos have beautifully brown skin, yes sir. I also changed his name from Shane Kairos to Shane Adeline Martinez, though I would later on also change this because I actually have relatives with that last name and it was a little weird, so I changed it to Magno. He also keeps his hair longish now because he's not as self-conscious about his gender identity, and I won't spoil anything because the overview video will be covering this, but those mint green tips at the end of his hair, yeah, that's not hair dye. And those scars below his left eye, keep those in mind, they're very important. On Niko's end, his hair became a deep chestnut color, which he started dyeing dark blue when he hit high school, and I ended up giving him a lot of tattoos. My headcanon, or canon depending on your mileage, is that he turned 18 and immediately said, "I'm gonna get my ears pierced and my hand tattooed." And he enjoyed his hand tattoos so much that he ended up speedrunning like 4 other tattoos. So by the time he's 23, he's positively covered in tattoos. He also retained his slip ring, which you may or may not have seen in that first piece of art. He also keeps his hair super long, in part because he's half Fae now, and Fae put a lot of importance into maintaining the length of their hair. Niko's name also went through a bit of a change. Instead of Niko with a C, I began spelling his name Niko with a K, making it so that his name could be spelled with Japanese characters. His second name, Noir, is a stylistic translation of his Fae name, Ravi, which means night, which he got after being born deep into the night. His full name is now Niko Noir Griffin, or in Velenal, that's Fae tongue, that's Niko Ravi Kryphos. His middle name is Nakashima, which pays homage to his Japanese ancestry. Homage? Homage? I've heard it pronounced both ways, so I'm not sure how to actually say that word. Anyway. Their relationship also went through several major changes through the years. Whereas the first version of Niche was more shy and reserved, a connection between 2 awkward introverts who just happened to also be convicted young criminals. The next few versions of them kind of flip-flop between being an amicable, banter-filled relationship between 2 smartasses to being a hostile enemies-to-lovers sort of trope where they hate each other in the beginning. I honestly wanted to keep the latter dynamic for the modern variant. As a Shiwaki girly, bless your heart if you know what that means, I do love me my enemies to lovers. But Niko was kind of... how do I say this without infantilizing him? Well, he really doesn't want to be anything like his father, who wields his temper like a whip. He likes exercising patience and kindness, especially towards others, so it's not likely that he would see Shane and think, "It's on site with you." There's not much of a reason for him to really hate Shane. But on the other hand, Shane has several reasons to dislike Niko. It's just that none of them justify him declaring them to be enemies. The 2025 iteration of Shane is something of a raging perfectionist with an inferiority complex. He thinks he's not good enough for anyone, and sometimes when he is especially delusional, he gets it in his head that people are looking down on him for not being as good as he needs to be, Niko included. I've also toyed with the idea of Shane seeing Niko as some sort of rival, but they are into very different things. Niko is an English major, or a language studies major with a specialization in common in lore-compliant terms, who works part-time for a detective agency and moonlights as a vocalist for a small indie band. Shane is a frustrated communication major, frustrated because he didn't want to be one, who works part-time as a florist and doesn't have many dreams beyond graduating with honors. Graduating with honors. About the only thing they share is having depressive disorder, though Shane is quite obviously undiagnosed and does not go to therapy, and therefore has no idea how to properly cope. And that's kind of where we are at this point. I'm currently writing a story revolving around depression and anxiety, and exploring the way Shane and Niko navigate them in their lives, as well as what happens when they decide to lean on each other for support. It's a wholesome story. No one dies, at least not before their time, and it's really just a slice of life that's a little bit depressing because it's about mental illness. But hey, can't have everything be peachy keen. I'm not that kind of writer. So that's the abridged story of Shane and Niko. I had to take a lot of stuff out of this script to make sure it didn't pass 20 minutes. I did a whole spiel about a second story I made a year after Siren's creation named Inner Gangster, though honestly both of those things deserve their own videos. We'll see if my ego can handle revisiting my teenage nonsense. I'd love to talk more about Niche, but I'm gonna have to cut it there. Here's the finished piece. I got way into sparklers these past couple of weeks and wanted to draw a scene where Shane confesses while they're playing with them. It remains to be seen if this will be canon or not. Well, that's it from me. Thank you for sticking around this long, and if you celebrate, happy Valentine's Day. Whether or not you're in a relationship, I hope you at least have a lovely day ahead of you. Alright, bye!